What is up, PreMed Star? It's Dr. Dale, the author of How to Raise a Doctor and the author of PreMed Mondays, both books available on Amazon.com. And of course, you're listening to PreMed Mondays mentoring podcast. Really excited about this week because we're going to be talking about 5 things to consider when choosing a major. And I honestly think this is one of the things that a lot of pre-meds really struggle with. So I'm going to help you out with that today. Check it out. Happy Monday, PreMed Star. So I just want to take a moment before we even get into this just to say how excited I was to see the PreMed Voice podcast launch last week. Peyton Smith, the host, she's one of the PreMed Star members. So a lot of you guys on PreMed Star know Peyton. So Peyton Smith hosted the very first episode of the PreMed Voice, which is the new podcast for PreMeds. So a bunch of PreMed Star students are putting together this podcast and it's great. I don't know what else to say. And I've heard a couple of ones that are going to come out in the near future, but the one that Peyton did last week, just getting things rolling, was amazing. So kudos to Peyton and kudos to all the other pre-meds that already submitted episodes, because again, like I said, I've heard some of this and that stuff is wonderful. I wish I would have had something like that when I was a pre-medical student. Just to hear these stories and hear the stuff you're saying is just great. So make sure you guys check out the PreMed Voice podcast. So go to your iTunes or Google store or whatever you use and check out the PreMed Voice podcast. Last week's episode was amazing, and I happen to already have a sneak peek to this week's episode, and it's just as amazing. So make sure you guys check that out. So this week, we're getting into something which I think is so crucial. A lot of pre-meds really struggle with this for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I understand why they struggle with it. Same reason which I probably struggle with it is how do you choose a major? So when I was a pre-medical student, and it's kind of the same way a lot of people see it today, is, hey, you want to be pre-med? Choose a science major. You want to be pre-med? Hey, major in biology, right? And that's kind of the main thing you're told. It becomes like a safety net. Well, I don't know what to major in, so I'm going to major in biology because that's what most pre-meds do. Well, that doesn't have to be the case. And as a matter of fact, nowadays, a lot of medical schools are looking for it to not be the case. Not necessarily, right? They want to see people who can do different things, who can bring different things to the table. So this podcast is going to be critical for those individuals who aren't quite sure what to major in. I'm just going to tell you some pearls of wisdom, some jewels. This stuff is gold. It's diamond. Take notes. Grab your PreMed Mondays book and just take notes in it if you want. But this stuff is important, so pay attention, okay? I'm going to grab my book here. So the first thing is probably, I would say, it should be the most obvious one, is major in something that you enjoy. Major in something you enjoy. And that's important because you're only going to be, assuming you're in college, you're only going to be in college for a very short period of time. It seems like a long time while you're there. You're like, oh man, especially for the freshman, I just got here 4 years. Wow, that's a long time. That's how long I just did high school. And it seems like a long time. But take it from somebody who's been through that process. I'm looking back and I graduated college now 12 years ago. And I feel like I was just in college yesterday. Time will fly. Time flies by in life, okay? So you want to major in something you enjoy because that 4-year period of time is really short, but it is your golden opportunity to have fun with it. Have fun with it. I remember my now wife, who was my girlfriend back then, we took tons of classes together. We're both pre-med and we took tons of classes together. And I remember sitting in classes like physics, for example. I'm sitting in physics and sometimes the stuff gets difficult. The material gets challenging. And, sometimes every now and then she'd be like, oh my goodness, I don't want to go to physics class. And I'd be like, hey, babe, just think about this. When else are you ever going to get the opportunity to go to a lab in a class where you just get to play with a bunch of random stuff? Think about your chemistry lab. When else are you going to get the opportunity to go in the lab and just mix together a bunch of chemicals? Think about biology, anatomy. When else do you get to go to a lab and just cut up on stuff? That doesn't happen in real life anymore, right? That only really happens in college to that level, for the vast majority of people at least, right? So I remember being in physics class and just doing all these physics experiments and just being so intrigued by it because in the back of my head, I kept on telling myself, man, Dale, you are never going to get the opportunity again to throw balls and measure acceleration and do all these things because I knew I wasn't going to be a physicist. So I knew that was my golden opportunity just to have a blast with all this stuff, right? And those are just classes, but extrapolate that to your major. So when you're thinking about your major, think, what am I going to enjoy? What am I going to have fun with? You want to go to medical school, right? So you don't even have to worry about what you're going to do with a career. You say, okay, I'm going to be a doctor. But on the way to becoming a doctor, what things do I really want to learn and just have a lot of fun with? It might be English. You say, hey, you know what? I really like English. I want to be a writer. So before I get to medical school, I want to write all sorts of great stuff and just really work on my writing because I enjoy writing. And personally, I will tell you, as somebody who really enjoys writing, obviously I wrote these 2 books and I write all these blogs you guys see on PreMed Star. As somebody who really, really enjoys writing, if I were to go back today, I might consider putting a lot more English in my major. I'm not sure saying I would necessarily major in English, but I'll take a lot more English courses. So the idea is find the things you like and take advantage of them. Take advantage of the opportunity just to grow those things and have a lot of fun with them, right? So the first thing is figure out what you like and major in something that you actually enjoy. Don't major in it just because everybody says that's what you have to major in. All right. So the second one is you can have more than one major. And that's something a lot of people often forget too. They say, I don't know which one of these majors to pick. I get these messages. People will send me messages or people will ask me these questions like, what's the better major? Which one should I pick? I don't know if I'm struggling between these 2 things. Hey, well, you can major in more than one thing. Sure, it's going to be a little bit more work most of the time, right? But if there's 2 things you like, why not major in both of them? And I will tell you. Now, if I could actually go back, I just mentioned the thing about I would take more English courses, but if I could go back, and I hate saying I would do things differently because I never want to regret anything in life, right? Decisions I made are the decisions I made, and I'm happy with where I'm at. So I will never say that I would change anything. But let's just say it this way. If I could start today and redo the college process again, what I would probably do is have a double major and get a business degree as well. And that's because I enjoy things that deal with business. And especially where I'm at in my career now, I see the importance of business at this stage of my life. So I would go back and I would major in something business plus biology. So I was a biology major. So if I go back, I would do biology and business, right? So you can double major. You don't have to trap yourself in one box and say, this is all I can do. Take 2 majors. That way you get a chance to really expand your horizon while you're there in college. Take advantage of those things. And number 3, don't pick a major because it's easy. Do not pick a major because it's easy. That is a very big mistake. Some people will think that they can game the system and say, hey, if I pick a really easy major, I can get a 4.0 or a high GPA. And when I apply to medical school, that's going to make me look really good. Well, guess what? All these people who sit on the admissions committee is not their first rodeo. They know how the game goes, right? So if you have a super duper easy major, you come in with a 4.0 versus somebody who was mechanical engineering or, biochemistry or something like that, and they come in with a 3.4. Their 3.4 more than likely is still going to be more impressive than your 4.0 in whatever easiest major in the world you could pick, right? So don't pick a major just because it's easy. That is an absolute no-no. It's just not a smart thing to do also, right? You don't want to waste your money taking courses that you might never really need or never really use, right? Number 4 is critical. And I'm so big on this, and people laugh at me and they get on me about this sometimes, but I am so big on this. Number 4 is choose something. Choose something. Don't sit there and be undecided for a very, very long time. You don't want to do that. You need to be, think about it, you're going to be a physician. You're going to have to be decisive as a physician. You don't have to know every answer immediately, but you're going to have to make some tough decisions as a physician. If you can't choose your major, what does that say about the ability of you in the middle of a code? All this noise is going on, and you have to decide, do I stick a needle in this patient's chest to try to relieve their tension pneumothorax? Or do I stick a needle in their pericardium to try to relieve their tamponade? Right? These are on-the-spot decisions. Those are real life or death decisions. Think about that versus, okay, I'm struggling to choose my major. I get it. It's a tough decision. But the point being is, don't wait forever because you got to make decisions in life. So don't sit there and be undecided for 3-4 semesters. Choose something and get going with it, right? If you need to change it, you can change it, but please, please, please choose something, right? Get the ball rolling, get going. College is not free. And number 5 is one which I want to emphasize because it's something that I could have done better as a student. And I say that, and I keep in mind, I say that as somebody who did very well academically in college, right? So something that I could have done better still, even though I got the grades that you needed to get, is master your major. Master your major. We go to class and we do what we have to do. And for me, I'll be honest, I studied for the test. I studied to get the A's. That's what I did. I figured out the system. I figured out how I could strategize. I figured out what I needed to do to get A's. And I did that. I did that well. But what I didn't do really was master my major. I didn't do the things that I needed to do to really master the subject material. And the way I knew that is because at the end of the 4 years, I was a biology major again, and I did very well. But at the end of the 4 years, we had to, I think the whole nation or something, a lot of students across the country took this biology finishing exam or something like that. And when I took that exam, even though I still did well, so I did very well compared to the rest of the country, but I was disappointed in my performance because I didn't think I did to the level that I should have done for somebody who just majored in biology. Because I remember there were questions on there. I was like, man, I have no idea what this thing is. And here I am, somebody just went through 4 years of biology, did well according to the grades, but I'm taking this test and there's just tons of stuff. I'm like, man, I have no idea what that is. So I left there feeling like, man, I did not master my major. I majored in this. I spent all this time, all this money and everything in college, but I'm leaving here not feeling like I have this material down pat. I should have known everything about biology. I had 4 years to learn it. 4 years to learn it, right? But I didn't. That's okay, though. And in reality, it doesn't have any great bearing on my outcome, my performance. Obviously, I went through med school and became a doctor, and I'm exactly where I would like to be in life. However, given the opportunity again, I will be much more mindful of, taking advantage of taking advantage of the opportunity to really master my major, right? You want to leave there saying, you know what? I'm one of the top 10% of people in the world. Probably even, honestly, it's probably really, if you can go through college and do really well in your major, honestly, you're probably going to be like the top 3-4% of people in the world when it comes to whatever your major was, understanding whatever your major was. So take the time to master your major. These are things that go beyond just getting to medical school. These are things that are at the level of, hey, I just want to be the best me that I can possibly be. I want to learn as much as I can possibly learn. So that's what that's about. Master your major. All right, so quick recap. Number 1, major in something you enjoy. Number 2, you can have more than one major. Number 3, don't pick a major just because it's easy. Number 4, choose something. And number 5, master your major. All right. So I want you guys to do all those things as you're deciding what major you should have in college. And even if you're already 2 years into your degree program and you're thinking about switching, go back to these 5 things and go through each one of them one at a time and make sure you're doing what you need to do to pick the right major that's going to give you the highest level of satisfaction overall. Okay. So this week's assignments, my question, what major have you chosen? Either that or what major are you choosing? What practical steps can you take to master your major? That's my assignment to you. Write it down. Tell your accountability buddy. I want to know, what practical steps can you take to master your major, right? Become an expert in your major. Write down some ideas and tell it to your accountability buddy, okay? Or send me a message on PreMed Star. I know some of you guys have been doing that, so thanks for doing that. Just shoot me a message and we'll chat a little bit, okay? And giving you guys a quick sneak peek to next week. We'll be talking about 5 keys to choosing your classes. So this week was about majors. Next week, we're going to be specific and talk about how to choose your classes. So again, I'm going back to the very beginning of this podcast, what I said, this new podcast, the PreMed Voice one, that thing is wonderful. And I'm really excited about it. Even seeing you're talking about it, you guys can probably tell I'm getting excited. But the PreMed Voice podcast, awesome. Make sure you guys check it out. Peyton did a phenomenal job last week. And this week is going to be Gregory Proctor coming up on it. And I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing it. I've already heard it, so I know it's great. But I'm looking forward to you guys hearing it and giving Gregory some feedback. If you guys want to get involved with it, go ahead and email voice@premedstar.com, and then Peyton will get that taken care of for you and get you on the show. All right. Don't forget, September 6th, we're doing a webinar with West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. September 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, doing a webinar with West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. Invite your pre-med club, invite all your friends. They're going to take your questions, so take advantage of these opportunities. We put a lot into making them happen for you guys because we know a lot of you don't have the opportunities to talk to admission personnel from medical schools. So that's why we do this for you guys, all right? So thanks for listening to the podcast. I love you guys. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, premedstar.com. Make sure you click the subscribe button on this podcast and on the PreMed Voice podcast. You guys definitely want to listen to that one. And I'll see you on premedstar.com.